Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where this week I have been daily driving the brand new W214 chassis Mercedes-Benz E-Class, an entirely new generation of E-Class for the 2024 model year. This one being the E450, the top dog as we kind of wait for the AMG models to grace the market. Under the hood of this E450, a 3-liter turbocharged inline-6 with a 48-volt mild hybrid system, 375 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. It's got a 9-speed automatic. It has 4-matic all-wheel drive, and I thought tonight we would take this thing on a chill little drive to downtown. I'll tell you guys what it's been like to live with this new E-Class this week, and then kind of give you my final thoughts on this new gen at the end. So what about this one here in front of us? What is our spec? Well, this is finished in MANUFAKTUR Alpine gray, and inside we have a Tonka brown interior. And I was questioning this name choice because I thought, well, Tonka, shouldn't that be bright yellow? But Tonka is actually a bean that grows in the rainforest. So I suppose this is kind of like a bean brown color, and I think it complements the gray exterior quite well. And as far as overall design goes, I think they have brought this up to the next generation in a very safe but classy way. I mean, there are design elements on this that I really like, starting with these taillights. Having the Mercedes star integrated into the design, I think looks fabulous. I think it's about time Mercedes starts taking some risks with these kind of corporate designs that they've been giving us. But on the flip side of things, you could argue that maybe they shouldn't be going super crazy like BMW is doing right now, but I think they've kind of split the difference nicely here and just given this a nicely elevated, mature design. In the front, this is where we see, I think, the most difference from the last gen. We have a light-up grille that is an option on this car. And overall, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of this black surround of the grille. I think it splits things up a bit too much. But it is still unmistakably Mercedes. We have these 21-inch wheels on some Continental tires, 245/35 R21 on the front, and I believe we have a 275 section tire on the back. We do, 275/30 R21. These are optional. They're almost like aerodynamic looking, but they are solid alloy. No aero covers here on this E-Class. I always like when we have Mercedes-Benz cars because they are fantastic to daily drive. Now that I say Mercedes-Benz, have you guys seen that TikTok audio where it's that old boomer man road raging? He's like, in your turbocharged Mercedes-Benz.
Turbocharged Mercedes-Benz.
That's all I've been able to think about this week while I've been driving this car, so I'm trying to get that out of my mind. But let's walk you around this thing and show you some of the practicalness of it before we jump out on the road and go for a drive. I want to start with the trunk because that is a very important part for a sedan like this. You got to have room for your golf clubs. This does have a power trunk as well, so why not use the key fob to open it up? Where we find an absolutely massive trunk. They have not skimped here. You've got plenty of room for things. You could take your whole family as well as all of their bags. We have buttons to power fold our rear seats down. There we go. See those fold in a 60/40 split. That is always nice to see. Button here to shut the boot. That shuts kind of in a hurry. Let's take a look into the back seat. Now, I want to talk about these door handles actually first before we jump back there. These pop out. I think we first saw these on the current generation S-Class. If you lock the door, they go in, which is nice for aerodynamics. You unlock, they pop out. What I don't like about these is the way that they actually feel in the hand. They're almost unnatural in a way. I don't really know how to explain it, but they don't feel like brittle or like they're going to break off. They're just kind of unnatural because they aren't necessarily mechanically attached, and it is just kind of an electronic reaction that you're getting from that door handle. Anyways, going on a bit of a tangent. Ooh, that's a heavy back seat. I'll fold that back up. And let's step into this back seat and show you what room is like back here. Overall interior packaging, this E-Class is a little bit smaller inside than I expected it to be. Having driven some of the competition, the 5 Series, the Genesis G80, those cars have really big back seats. And this E-Class, it's packaged a little bit differently, kind of a larger exterior, some more priority to that trunk space, and a little bit less priority into the rear seat passenger area. This driver's seat is set at my position at 5'11", and of course the way in which these seats are designed, you do have a little bit more legroom back here. And as far as sitting back here, I think at 5'11", I'm fine. I could do it. But if you're taller than that, it may be pushing it. You've got some cup holders here in the middle, which my comment section has taught me how to use these Mercedes cup holders recently because I could only ever get it to do that. But the way you do it is you push, and then you do half a push, and then the cup holders come out and those are revealed. So you've got those there in the middle. We don't have a climate control unit back here to control yourself, but you do have some vents, and you've got a little cubby here to put some things. I think material-wise back here, it's really nice. It matches really well what we have going on up front, which I'm excited to show you guys. But lots of leathers, lots of soft touch points. And overall, if you're below like 6'2", it's a really nice place to be in the back seat of this new E-Class. Door handles to get out, on the other hand, do feel quite nice. And listen to this door closing sound. I think Mercedes has gotten enough complaints about their doors becoming flimsy since the 1970s and 1980s, when they were kind of renowned as the bank vault car, that they've put a little bit of heft back into their doors. So I do really like that. I just wish the door handle felt a little bit better, because then I would enjoy opening and closing them even more. Let's pop the hood and show you this turbocharged mild hybrid assisted inline six. I gotta say, I love that manufacturers like BMW and Mercedes are going back to inline six powertrains. You guys tell I haven't opened this yet? Because I am always one to vouch for an inline six over a V6. They're so much smoother, they sound better, and overall just kind of elevate the experience, give you a bit more of a classy feel. Not much to see under here, just a big engine cover, and well, I guess that's kind of it. But there you go, that's the 3-liter inline six. Shut that politely with our little roundel there on the hood. What do you guys think of the styling? I mean, do you think they could have taken a bigger risk? The problem is, I think the riskiest design that Mercedes has had lately have been with their EQ cars that all just look like eggs, and I think that those are a total mess. So I guess I'm pretty satisfied with the way that they made this car look. Let's jump up front, show you what that looks like, and then we'll go for a drive. Obviously, since this is a Mercedes-Benz, we have some beautiful ambient lighting that goes all the way through the door panels and surrounds our brand new dashboard design all the way through the top of the dashboard under our massive screen, and just a total light show. A lot of people say it looks like a Twitch streamer's room, which probably doesn't help that I always have it set to purple because that's what I prefer. But they always do the best ambient lighting in the game. Now you are able to option soft close doors on your new E-Class. This one is not equipped with that, though it is equipped with over $20,000 worth of options. The E450 starts at $68,000. This one as spec is 90 grand. A lot of options on this, including air suspension, driver assistance pack, this special exterior and interior colors, different trims, a selfie camera. All the options I will put in the description so you guys can see specifically what this has. But before we go down that rabbit hole, let's start this thing up. My phone is wirelessly connected to CarPlay, so I'm trying to get this volume down before it reconnects and starts playing copyrighted music. No volume knob in this car whatsoever. We just have a couple of haptic touch little slide buttons here, which I would be the first person to give grief to Mercedes about this. Nowadays, a lot of cars, a lot of German cars specifically, have these haptic touch buttons. I've gotten a bit more used to them, and I think as far as calibration goes, Mercedes has done it the best. They feel the most natural out of all of the haptic touch buttons. We're going to get our climate control going. It is a little bit toasty in here. We're going to set this down to 65, which gives us a cool animation when you adjust your climate there on the ambient lighting. Ooh, that is making lots of noise, so excuse that for a second as it adjusts the temperature here in the cabin. All of that obviously in the infotainment, but many other things in the infotainment, like Angry Birds. I don't really have a total explanation for this other than that I picked the car up from TheTopher and he said, don't you know you can play Angry Birds in the new E-Class? So you're able to do that here. Shall we try a level? I guess he left off on level 17. Ooh, I am rusty at Angry... Oh, I got one. I was going to say I'm a bit rusty at Angry Birds. Does this have sound effects? Probably does. Oh, it does. I used to love playing this game. This game got me through high school French class. think AP Government I spent most of my time playing. Anyway, so you can play Angry Birds is basically what I'm trying to say. And when you're done playing Angry Birds, you can do a number of other things in this infotainment as well, such as take a selfie with this optional selfie camera. You all have seen the commercials for this thing at this point, I'm sure. It's the most connected E-Class ever, as far as playing Angry Birds and taking selfies of yourself, I suppose. There I am, hello. You do have to have a USB or some sort of a SD card inside to be able to record video, which I guess, you know, do what you will with that information. You are able to record video in this car, or you can take photographs. I wonder if there are any photographs stored in here. I'm going to say probably not, because there's no SD card, but a number of different sort of gimmicky things like that. But overall experience, actually using everything, this all works really nicely. I know the TheTopher mentioned in his video that he doesn't really appreciate the lack of physical controls and how we're kind of losing touch on that side of luxury with just kind of buttons that are nice to press and things that have some heaviness, some heft to them, and how everything now is just like an Apple Watch. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. Apologies for a bit of that boomer tangent. You have a bit of storage here in this split folding armrest. You've got more storage up here with a wireless charger. You have some cup holders that pop out to hold some smaller cups or bottles. A lot of storage here in the door pockets, as well as this really cool design that makes the window switches look like they are floating. I really do appreciate that. Seat controls, you can heat and cool at the same time, of course, because this is a Mercedes-Benz. All of that is on the door, as it has been for decades. We have a physical control for our headlight switch. I do appreciate that they give you that still, and it mirrors our start-stop button here on the right-hand side. Let's use our column shifter, throw this thing into reverse, and jump out onto the road, because that is really where this thing shines. Really, really nice 360 camera and reverse cameras. And the first thing that you notice is the steering weight. Now, this, in my opinion, is where Mercedes comes out on top with the daily driving aspect. Obviously, you can argue that a Genesis G80 or a BMW 5 Series is going to help you feel a bit more connected and going to give you a bit more of a raw driving experience, which does sound funny for a luxury car, but this E-Class is definitely not a driver's car, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be. But the steering is so light, and with the AIRMATIC optional air suspension package, you get rear wheel steering, which is something you don't really see in other cars in this class, and it really brings this thing up to another level as far as driving comfort and kind of just like overall status, the way this car makes you feel. It feels more important than an E-Class. You almost feel like you're driving an S-Class, so I do really like that. Not to mention the overall ambiance, the ambience here in the cabin with this ambient lighting, with this really cool screen display, the, you know, kind of corporate design of the steering wheel now, which I wish that this airbag in the middle was wrapped in leather, but we'll gloss over that for now. Apart from that, all the materials and everything up here, top of the dash wrapped in leather, it's a really nice place to be. And this car just floats down the road with this air suspension. It almost kind of like wallows back and forth. We were driving a Bentley Continental GT in California earlier this year, and that was kind of the first car that I had felt that didn't only move up and down, but moved side to side. The suspension in this car, when you're in comfort mode, is so soft that you kind of feel like you're in an old 1970s Cadillac where you hit some bumps and, you know, you're kind of just like in a boat riding the waves, and then you go around a corner and it rocks side to side. So there are some moments where it feels a little bit unsettled, but I mean, for the most part, it just soaks everything up beautifully. Even on these 21-inch wheels, it does a really nice job with the damping. Speaking of drive modes, you have this dynamic button down here. You can switch yourself into Eco, Comfort, Sport, or you can configure an individual drive mode. Obviously, Sport sharpens everything up. It gives you a little bit more, or a little bit less steering angle. You don't have to do as much steering to turn. I don't know, you guys know what I'm trying to say. Less steering angle to get you around corners. It's almost alarming sometimes how quick the steering is in this car, and I do love that about Mercedes and other kind of European luxury cars, is they're able to just make the steering feel so luxurious. But when you're in sport, I mean, you have to give it barely anything and you are turning in. This E450 is properly quick. It's the first thing that the Topher said to me when we swapped cars this week. He was like, this thing is proper fast. And this inline six is similar to what you would get in a 53 series AMG car, you know, close to 400 horsepower. So we'll slow down here and we'll do a bit of an acceleration. We'll go from like 30 and we'll just roll into it. You guys can see the acceleration here. I mean, it scoots. Brake pedal feel is pretty nice. You got to get into it a little bit. Some of the recent few Mercedes I've driven, I haven't really been crazy about the brake pedal feel. Feels all right in this car. You can take manual control of your 9-speed with these steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. I haven't really done that too much this week. The automatic programming on this transmission is pretty dang good. I really don't ever feel like I'm in the wrong gear for the situation. And pretty seamless auto stop start as well, with this being a 48 volt mild hybrid system. It shuts off when you're going like 5 miles an hour, kind of coasts itself to a halt, and then when it starts back up, you don't really notice because of the mild hybrid. There is no starter sound. I gotta say, I think this is one of the best riding sedans I've ever driven. They have got the damping, the tuning of this air suspension so dialed in. But that's how a Mercedes should drive, exactly like this. We're gonna go back into sport mode as we enter the highway here. We're getting blocked by a GM product, as always. Of course. That's okay. Back into comfort. Probably could have flown around him, but we're not in a hurry tonight. Not trying to hurt any feelings. We are just enjoying the Mercedes-Benz way. Kick down. Let's talk about another big perk of this car, and that is when you are cruising on the highway, it is just pure bliss. I really, really like driving this on the highway. Cruise control, super easy to set up. A couple of buttons there on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, and you are able to go into the driving assist, which features automatic lane change. And this thing centers itself in the lanes really nicely, behaves just as you would want it to. You're able to turn off a lot of the driver assist as well in the menu here at the top of the screen. You can turn off your lane keeping assist, which actually mine is off right now and it's still doing a really good job. The steering weights up nicely when you're up to highway speeds. We have some sort of like adaptive braking where if you're coming up too close to a car, it'll automatically kind of regen and brake and increase that distance for you without you actually touching the brake pedal. All right, for another pass. Really nice load on torque. It doesn't really have to rev itself over 3,000 RPM to make highway passes. As a daily, I mean, it's fantastic. Let's quickly, before we jump off the highway, talk about some of our comfort points here in the interior. Elbow comfiness, fantastic. I've got a really nice squish to these. They're almost like, feel like they're rubberized underneath, but they feel like they're gonna hold up over time, these places that you would rest your elbows. They're at a nice height as well for you to rest your hands around the 9 and 3 mark on the steering wheel. Seating position is really nice. I can see about halfway over the top of the hood, especially if I lower my steering wheel a bit. I just have that up so you guys can see the cluster efficiently. But man, I mean, there's a lot of customization in this car, a lot of different ways you can view this cluster, a lot of different widgets and things you can set up in here, so many different ambient lighting colors that you know, this would be a 40-minute video if I showed you guys everything, but what I love so much is that you can really make these cars yours. You can set shortcuts. In fact, they call it routines in this car. You can set a routine in the infotainment, so you can set it where if you roll your windows down, it'll shut the climate control off, or, you know, certain sort of things like that. If you open the sunroof, it adjusts the climate in a certain way, or it turns a certain radio station on if you open the sunroof. It's just like silly little things like that, but it's nice to know that they've kind of considered us, considered that, you know, sometimes people just want to be entertained by little things like that with their cars. With one of the packages selected on this car, we get the Burmester 4D surround system, which is excellent. We've heard similar systems on some of the Mercedes S-Class, GLS cars, things like that. And they're always really good systems. It's really no different here in the E-Class. I would say it's not quite up to the level of the S-Class, and they have to save a little bit of that reservation, of course, for that car. But we'll go ahead and we'll put on a song here, and we will let you listen to that as we cruise into town. You can hear there where this Burmester system really shines is on complex music. You get a lot of really crispy highs with this, and shows you the kind of depth and quality to this sound system. It is just really nice. We'll go through some of these ambient lighting colors. You guys can see how all of that is, how all of that appears in front of us. But oh man, I really can't say enough good about how it's been to live with this car this week, daily driving, everything of the sorts. I do look forward to walking out to this car while it's sitting in the driveway and going places. In fact, I've put about 200 miles on this car this week, which is more than I normally do. But I was helping a buddy with some bring a trailer photography earlier this week, so I had to drive out to Fenton, Michigan, which was like a 100-mile round trip. So I guess that was 100 of my miles, but either way, I've put 100 around town miles on this thing, and it's just been fantastic. I do think if this car had like 18-inch wheels or something, it would just be peak. It would be peak daily driver. You do ever so slightly and sometimes get a bit of crashiness just from these 21-inch wheels, but it's also just like the overall quietness of this car. I mean, it's whisper quiet in here, even going over this extremely imperfect road. Yeah, it's just, this is the way that luxury cars should be. I want to really quickly touch one more time on what I said earlier about the BMW 5 Series, and that is kind of the prime competitor for this car. If you're somebody that really enjoys driving and, you know, likes to kind of push it to the limit on some days, absolutely have yourself a 540i. You won't enjoy driving this E-Class as much, but if you're someone that just genuinely wants to like sit back, relax, not really have to think about driving too much, this E-Class is going to be the car for you. A lot less effort goes into the steering. About the same amount of effort goes into the infotainment. I would say things are probably slightly less hidden in this Mercedes than they are in the BMW. You don't have to put as much thought into it. The overall ambiance in here is a little bit sweeter in the Mercedes. Let's go to Red Moon. I like Red Moon a lot. I'm always so torn on what color I want my cabin to be when I'm driving these cars. It's cool because they have multicolor animations, which means you can set Red Moon, but you can see a light green, a light blue, a dark blue, a red, and it kind of cycles through, which I really quite enjoy. All right, GoPro overheated, so we're gonna go ahead and close this. We're gonna wrap this video up. Oh man, I just don't want to stop driving this car. I think I'm gonna keep on driving it after I turn the cameras off. Vent placement in this thing is really nice. I gotta say, I love that they put the vents above the infotainment screen. A lot of cars nowadays, a lot of manufacturers are prioritizing the infotainment above the vent placement, which means that the vents are often placed way too low. In this car, they're at a really nice kind of face level. Even on the sides of the dashboard, I mean, look at this design here. They've just integrated things really well into this car. They've done the whole, tons of screens. I didn't even mention this has a optional passenger screen over there on the passenger side, of course. It's activated when you sit in the seat. Emily was playing with it earlier. Kind of redundant. It pretty much does the same thing that this screen does, so I don't really need to show you guys anything special over there. But what I like is that they've integrated all of this technology into this car, but they've still made things, for the most part, quite functional. They haven't really sacrificed driver comfort with all of these new electronics, and I really do genuinely appreciate that in this new W214, which sounds just like W124, which is a very iconic generation of E-Class. That is the bank vault car. The W124 is the E-Class that you see running around in Africa with 600,000 miles. Every body panel is a different color. It's, smashed to bits, almost rusted in half, and still running. Those are properly impressive vehicles. So, the E-Class has quite the legacy, and I hope that, Mercedes is kind of planning for the future.
Select an event from this. Welcome. Please.
Thank you.
Proceed into the lot.
What did we name him? Tim? I think that was it. We'll be seeing him again on the way out. Anyways, what I was going to say is I hope that these infotainment systems and all the electronics in these cars, I hope they are robust. I hope they hold up and withstand the test of time. Ford Taurus wagon, check that out. When's the last time you saw a Ford Taurus wagon? Really quiet window motors. All of the inputs in here, they're so delicate. I think that's really the best word to use to describe this car. Everything is delicate, everything's precise, and you do feel like you're driving a $90,000 vehicle. I know this isn't an S-Class, but it feels pretty dang close. Every new generation of S-Class, of 5 Series that we get, these kind of mid-grade luxury sedans, they're working their way up. They are catching their older brothers and kind of making the proposition of, having an S-Class, having a 7 Series, they kind of make it less appealing because these are becoming so nice that, I spend time in this car and I'm thinking to myself, why would I buy an S-Class? I guess if you need the rear seat room, otherwise I can't really think of any other reason to, because it doesn't drive that much differently. So consider that when you're comparing, C-Class to E-Class to S-Class. Even the new C-Class is really nice. I would say that the E-Class is nice enough to where it is excusable to have it over a C-Class. Let's roll these windows down. I need some fresh air in here. Sunroof is opened by swiping. Kind of like a haptic touch Volvo style thing there. Anyways, though, if you're an executive person, you need a car to get you from your small town down to the big city like I've just done. This is a really, really good option for you. And yes, you should check out a 5 Series, a G80, an Audi A6. They're all really solid contenders, but if you want something that's purely dedicated to making your commute less miserable, making you comfortable, I think this is the car. I really do. They've really, really done a good job on this W214 platform, this new generation of E-Class. It's pretty dang good. So, cool, guys. Well, that's just about going to wrap it up for us today. If you want to learn more about this car, you can do a couple of things. You can go over to the TheTopher channel where he has his own standalone review of this thing, or go to the comment section, ask me any questions that you may have about this thing. I have been living with it for the past, at this point, 3 days. So I do know some about it. You can hear our air suspension there over those bumps, using all of that clearance. All of that suspension travel, rather, I guess I should say. We're going to wrap up over here because we have people in our normal spot. That's okay. I love using the column shifter. I love kind of the sequence of events in this car. I love using the column shifter. I love the cameras. I love this light steering. Ooh, that is obnoxious. We did not set this up really well, but I'm going to use this as an excuse to say I just want to show you guys all of our camera systems. I set that up so bad. I promise I know how to park. The good news is the people that leave hate comments, usually they don't watch until this part of the video, so we should be pretty safe there. Okay, parking brake is an electronic button here to the left of the steering wheel. Push that in to engage it. Shut this thing off, and why don't we show you the exterior one more time. Let me know what you guys think about this new gen of E-Class. Not entirely like striking, you know, if you were to see one of these going down the street, you wouldn't, I don't think, immediately know that it's the new generation unless you were an enthusiast. But that isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes you can have a little bit of kind of reserved elegance, reserved luxury, and this does a pretty good job of doing that. Yes, the grille lights up. That's a little bit gaudy. I really like the design of the running lights on this. They've just overall really good job on this car. I have such minimal complaints for this thing. So good job, Mercedes, and thank you for letting me spend a few days with this thing. That's going to wrap it up for us. You can see our door handles are illuminated, so when you walk up to this thing at night, especially when the doors are locked, they do stay illuminated, so you walk up to it. Normally these pop out. I've kind of been having to prompt them this week. But anyways, fix the door handles, and then what else did I say? I think that's like the only thing I don't really like about this. Otherwise, it's fantastic. So, all right, wrap it up. Thank you guys all so much for watching. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. But that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. And we will see you in the next video. Take care.